Thursday, July the 22nd, 2021, and on this rather sultry day, it's around 28 degrees at the moment, I've decided to revisit a walk I last did a decade ago, in February actually, 2011, which is a Saturday Walkers Club walk. So I haven't done a Saturday Walkers Club walk for probably 18 months now. Can't remember when it was, but I know it was in Nebworth. So like I say, this was done probably at the wrong time of the year when I did it in February. It was windy, quite wet underfoot. So I thought I'd come back, as I say, a decade later and see what's changed, because almost invariably stuff will have done. And hopefully the walk will have improved, because parts of it last time weren't that great. So it's about, as you can see, 1:15. Got about 11.5 miles to do. I'm doing the standard walk today again, which is what I did last time, but unlike last time, I'm following the GPX track, and of course around a decade ago we didn't have those. So there's a change for starters. A lot of this walk utilises the Ouse Valley Way path, which we walked last week in a different part of the world, over towards Bedford. So let's press on, see what awaits. Don't think I mentioned that I'm in Godmanchester. So although this walk would normally start at Huntingdon Station, as most Saturday Walkers Club walks do, thanks to GPX technology I'm able to start it on any point round the walk, and I've chosen for logistical reasons to start in Godmanchester, which is also Cambridgeshire, but slightly nearer my side of town. Quite amazingly, the car park I was going to use, it is currently closed, as they're refurbishing the mill, apparently. So this free car park, a council one, is closed to the end of October. Sod's law, isn't it? But there is nearby street parking that's free anyway. So as you can see, they're doing some work on the mill steps. Information panel here about Godmanchester Mill. Which you can Google. This looks like elements of it left here. And as I pointed out last week, you've got a load of mallards here, and it's very difficult to distinguish the male drakes from the ducks at the moment, because the males have molted, and the only way of doing that recognition is by that little wing feather, the purpley coloured one, I think. But otherwise, from a distance, they look just like the ducks at the moment, which is quite interesting. So ordinarily you'd come over this footbridge, which I didn't because I came via the mill, and continue straight on into Godmanchester Meadows. Now I do expect to encounter cattle today, unfortunately, but hopefully they'll be tucked under trees because of the heat. That's the plan. Very twee place, isn't it? So, come out into Godmanchester Meadows, and hopefully it'll be a bit more peaceful now. Get away from the crowds. My onward journey is towards that main A road on the map. Somewhere in that corner is the path. Well, in fact, that's not my onward direction. I am doing this in a clockwise direction, by the way, as the GPX track does it. But to the right of these houses, ahead there is a gate out of here. That's what I'm aiming for. I've strayed off the track a bit. So as you can see, we're still on the Ouse Valley Way, and this is the exit. So this is Mill Common, which takes you back to Huntingdon Station. Clearly I'm not going to re-walk that because I'm not going to the station, but Huntingdon around this bit has changed massively by the looks of it. So I'm going to get back on track near the castle mound here. So I'm now walking up a road called Castle Hill, which is a private road with this footpath running off of it. Passing an old beacon. Clearly these are ruins here, or a mound, what's left of it. Passing Godmanchester Bridge, which has the pedestrian passing points on it, like last week. Now that's interesting. Got some guys there cutting some ash back, and that one doesn't appear to have dieback. So far it's been a bit higgledy-piggledy this walk. As I mentioned when I first did it, it's a bit urban so far, but I think henceforth we get out into countryside. The old deadly Himalayan balsam, and on my right it's some reeds where I've just heard I think it's sedge warblers. Recently cut hay here, waiting to be baled, and we're still in deepest Huntingdon. A little while yet before we escape. Main road's just the other side of those trees. So as we enter a cool tree tunnel, I did consider doing a tree, or a predominantly tree lined walk today over towards Tring, but opted against that simply because of the cattle situation here today. Like I say, hopefully there won't be many about when ordinarily there would be. I didn't see any last time I did this walk because of the time of year, February. Approaching Hartford with an A, H-A-R-T, Hartford Church, which had a service going on when I passed it 10 years ago. It was a Sunday, I believe. So as the weather is much better on this occasion, the view from the entrance to All Saints is far better than the last time I filmed this. It's too early in the walk for me to have lunch, unfortunately. I'm aiming for Houghton. So there you go, All Saints, Hartford. I would say there's very few footpath markers, but we turn right down the grove here. We certainly don't want to be taking that route. This is ours. This is actually a bus lane here on my left. So passing Hartford Mill, Green King pub, plus the marina here, which sells fuel, I notice. I suppose they have to get it somewhere. So at Banks End on the map, take a left here next to the busy A road. Okay, it's taken about 3 miles to reach this private lake over on my left. And finally I think we're now getting into the sort of rural area, and I did remember this from doing it a decade back, but bit of variety now hopefully. Now I will say this morning on my drive up here I saw my first fields of corn cut. Not sure what it was because obviously I was driving, and I also saw 2 combines being moved into position on trailers ready to attack their harvest as well. So July 22nd 2021 represents my first sighting of this year's harvest being cut. So that guy was right. A couple of weeks back he said 2 to 3 weeks. And having said that earlier about tree lined walks, this one's not too bad at the moment, or hasn't been thus far. Been quite a fair it's been quite a lot of shade actually, so I can't complain. I'm currently walking along Ruddles Lane according to the map currently. A very rare sight today, finger post, but an increasingly common sight now. Yet more land sold, likely for development. What a wonderful wild flower meadow that currently is. Ragwort, thistle, knapweed, all sorts over there. And you can see the butterflies fluttering around. But those 5 acres are another 5 acres of green belt lost. Absolutely ludicrous. As I said last week, it's relentless. And for who? Londoners moving out, no doubt. Or possibly people from Cambridge, who are in fact Londoners anyway, on the most part. Keep noticing this little lilac flower again, which that hoverfly is about to pollinate. Don't think it's the same one I saw last week, but I'd be intrigued to know what it is. The reason I say that is because it seems to be more on its own this week, whereas last week it was in groups, big clusters. Get a better idea of the leaf there. Actually, I'm seeing it more in clusters now, so probably the same plant as last week. Thanks for the identification, Julie. Well, her name escapes me again. So having crossed the A road once again behind me, we're now entering Wyton of RAF fame. Wyton. The recommended lunchtime stop is at the Three Jolly Butchers here. Obviously conditions are very different to when I was here a decade ago with the COVID restrictions. There's another alternative over there, the Three Horseshoes. And talking of COVID, one other thing that I've noticed since COVID has been on is that clearly there are more people about on weekdays, more cars, more walkers, as lifestyles have changed, unfortunately. Yeah, there's more competition during the weekdays now, which is bad news, I think. That's my lunchtime stop over there, albeit nearly 3 o'clock. The church in Houghton. Yet another St Mary the Virgin. Now I'm not sure if there's any seats in this place. Not the church, but the cemetery. Could be an issue. That'll give you some idea of the age of the building. Wonderful. This church is definitely locked up. There is one seat here, but it's not in the best position, next to a public footpath, and it's school exiting time, so that's bad news. Anyway, that's what it is. So 4:15, lunch has been had, thanks to Jean K here. So let's press on. This is 5¼ miles into the walk, or the version I'm doing. So that probably leaves around another 6½ to do. So this is a decent halfway point. Passing the National Trust's Houghton Mill, which seems quite busy. There is the mill. So my onward journey is actually through the tunnel under the mill. There. And I'm sure the National Trust didn't plan for this to be happening. It's terrible. So, as we leave Houghton, swan and her young over there. £15 for your boat or punt. Information panel here about the Ouse Valley Way. Obviously we've seen a lot of those on my walks recently. Barge and a boat going through the lock here. Top of the range bit of kit there, baling the hay. The speed it's going at, quite amazing really. Now at this point you could go straight ahead there towards that hay rick and do a longer walk. I've actually just realised that I've missed out Houghton Meadows, but that's no skin off my nose. Means that I'm 2 kilometres less walking today, and I have filmed it before. So let's press on and go down the Ouse Valley Way on this side, whilst this barge is going through the lock. See, you've even got ash next to this river, the Great Ouse, over there. It's everywhere. Significant tree, eh? But soon will be no more. Passing Houghton 4 gate sluice. One thing I haven't noticed that I was expecting is any storm damage from 2013 when I was living down in Norfolk, and clearly this Great Ouse River ends up in King's Lynn or nearby, straight into the wash. So yeah, I would have expected flooding of these meadows for sure, albeit that's 8 years back now. Doesn't seem to be any significant damage. But I'm sure that was breached. I presume that's a little egret as opposed to a great white. Interesting, because the ones down my way that I often see from my kitchen window haven't been around for a couple of months, so I assume that they migrated off. Must just be nesting somewhere. Yeah, that is a family of little egrets. Red kite up there, tucking into its lunch. Not as common round this way as the buzzard, but certainly I wouldn't have seen them 10 years ago here. He's in a dead ash as well. Look at that, the dieback. There's the Hartford marina that I passed earlier. Obviously now we're on the other side of the river. Huntingdon, I noticed, the caravan company, chalets and what have you, run that. So they must be in competition with hoe seasons and such. Still following the Ouse Valley Way. All these little backwaters are great. Excellent for wildlife. Unfortunately I can still hear the road in the background, police, as you can hear. Is that a ringlet on the cinnabar? Oh, sorry, yeah, on the ragwort. Getting my moths and butterflies mixed up there. I thought only the cinnabar moth was able to live on that ragwort. Obviously not. Wonderful willows, eh? It's about 30 degrees C now, so pretty warm. Now entering the nature reserve, which should be interesting. Well, that's good to know. The cows are back. May to October. Fantastic. Didn't think I'd get away with it today. There's the Peter Prince Memorial Nature Reserve memorial stone there. And there is his nature reserve. Well done. And I noticed you get water rail in here. Haven't seen one of those for years. Very rarely see them anyway. They're like bitterns. Very elusive. Over there on my left, hidden through the trees, is a large lake, former pits, I believe. Lots of those around this area, stretching all the way along the Ouse to Bedford really. I think that's why Lafarge, back in my first video of this walk, we're up here. I filmed something to do with Lafarge, I think. Haven't seen that today yet. So here is said lake. Pretty large expanse of water. So there's a hell of a lot of beasts on the other side of the bank, river, and as I forecast, even at this time of the afternoon, when it's a bit cooler. They're still behind the trees. Interesting memorial of some kind here. Don't recall seeing that before. So thankfully, as I forecast, it's all a bit too hot for them. That's why I chose this walk today. Catch them sitting down and lazy. Plenty of geese around. Quite a mixture of birds here, as you can hear by the gulls in the background as well. I'm now on the Pathfinder Trail, which links up a number of Air Force bases, which I was on a couple of weeks ago on another one of my walks over towards Buntingford Way. Lovely pastoral scene over there. The old church, that must be Houghton. Or possibly All Saints at Hartford that I was at earlier. Yeah, more likely. See, these wires have got the geese and swan protectors on them. Makes sense. Didn't see any over at Graffham the other day. Graffham Water. So we now do a very short section of this dismantled railway line. A lovely ragwort. Brightens up the place, doesn't it? Even if it is well considered a bit of a demon weed. Doesn't seem to bother the cattle that are knocking around here at the minute. My goodness. Glad I didn't come across that lot. Although they're not that far from me. They're not yet in my direction. And thankfully we do a left here off the railway line. So I've just had the 8-mile indicator come up. A bit shorter than I anticipated today. As I say, I've missed out the meadows, but hey ho. So that's Godmanchester Church there, where I'm parked near enough. So we're not far short. Walking past more deep water on my left. A former pit, now a private angling lake. Get a better view of it here. I've just seen a grebe of some description dive down. Probably a great crested. Going under the dual carriageway here. Crossing Godmanchester cricket pitch. So here we are, 8.7 miles later. Nothing like what I intended today. I thought it was going to be about 11.5, but as I say, I missed out Houghton Meadows. So this is basically the winter version that the Saturday walkers do during the darker days. But I've done it on one of the hottest days of the year, and that's reflected in my pace today. 2.5 miles an hour. 3 hours 30. Anyway, I can't say I'm in any rush to come back within the next decade. Second half of that walk is by far the best, as I said previously, and the Saturday walkers haven't walked it for 3 years, I notice, albeit that 2 years have probably been enforced by COVID, but I can understand why. It's a long way to come out from London, hour and a bit on the train, and it's only the second half of the walk that's really any good. So It's a shame you can't sort of contrive. I know they've done a longer version, but you've still got to put up with the first 3 miles. So it's a shame it can't be contrived, even though I've driven today as well. So, you know, I could start it at any point. Maybe at some future point I might do the St Ives derivative or deviant. See what that looks like. It's a bit calmer and quieter over that way. But otherwise, decent leg stretch for Thursday afternoon. I'm covered in black storm flies. Now that indicates we're probably going to get a storm pretty soon. Hasn't happened yet, and I don't think it's forecast tonight, but it's coming. So, free walk, or SWCwalk 31, completed once again, and brushed up without any wind interference.